Hey, what's up guys? This is Shimugi, and today we're going to talk about the tips and tricks of how to build a proper Tyranid competitive list. So in this video, I'm going to cover what kind of unit you want to take and how many of them, in which detachment, and in what height fleet, and how they work together. I'm not gonna go over like the basic unit stat and whatnot because that's just wasting a lot of time. And you can just read it from Codex, so I don't have to be there to, guide you through it. You can just read the book. But why I'm here today is to talk about what's not in the book, which is how to properly build a competitive Tyranid army list. Uh, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Tyranid is actually a very versatile faction to play with. Unlike Imperial Guard, unlike, let's say, Eldari or Imperial Knight list, and maybe even, let's say, Tau, those kind of factions are great. They're pretty competitive. They are very overpowered. Well, not exactly overpowered. I won't say that for Tau, but for Imperial Guard, and Imperial Knights and Eldar, they are pretty much falls into the category. But they have one problem. The problem is that the lists they bring are very stale. It's not changing. It's always like a brigade detachment of Imperial Guard plus Imperial Knights, which consists of 2 Gallant and 1, let's say, Crusader or Castellan. It depends. If Castellan doesn't get nerfed in the coming chapter approved, then the people will continue to use Castellan. But if it's get nerfed, it will change to Crusader. And the same thing goes for Tau. You have the basic setup. It's triple 10 XP 104 Riptide, and then you start filling out some Fire Warriors, some Cold Star Battle Suit. It's just very stale. Like the list can't be changed much because what you bring is very limited. But the same thing cannot be said for Tyranids though. Tyranids are a little bit more different. You can play a very diverse army, although that still doesn't mean you can play quote-unquote trash unit. I don't want to say trash because it's not really trash, just they're not that competitive. Of course you can still pull some pretty wins in your local casual games, but if we're talking about competitive here, yeah, that wouldn't be a case. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the units that's worth considering in a competitive list. Okay, when I'm talking about worth considering, I'm talking about they can actually see the light of day on table. I'm not talking about like maybe some warriors or what you call it, warriors, Male Scepter, Haruspex, gargoyles. Those kind of unit are okay. They are cool. They look cool. You can play them casually and get some win. I have no problem with that. But if we're talking about optimizing a list, I wouldn't consider bringing those kind of units. So you know what? Let's just skip over it. Let's start talking about what unit you want to bring. The unit that's worth considering. Let's start with the HQ. All right. Just open your book. Like let's read it together. Just grab a book and start reading. Okay, Brute Lord. Brute Lord is, I will say, it's not that great. I actually won't recommend Brute Lord. The only time you want to bring Brute Lord is under 2 circumstances. Number 1, you're lacking forward synapse creature. And number 2, you have a shitload of Gene Stealers. Those are the only 2 cases you want to bring a Brute Lord. And yes, you heard it correctly, a Brute Lord. You don't ever consider bringing more than 2 because there's no reason to. It's really expensive for what it does. It's a toughness 5 unit with okay melee combat capability, but it cannot kill anything above toughness 6 or 7. Okay, let alone Imperial Knights. It's not capable to do that, but they are capable of tearing shit apart with maybe Marines, Guardsmen, they can do that, but for their price, for their cost, for their point cost, it's not as efficient. It is not efficient at all. The reason why you bring them is because they have less than 10 wounds and they are a character, which means they cannot be picked out by shooting attacks unless it's a sniper type of attack. So Brute Lord is actually pretty good as a forward synapse creature because it has 8-inch movement. It can keep up with the Kraken, Gene Stealers, and Hormagaunts, mostly Hormagaunts because Hormagaunts got instinct behavior, but Gene Stealer doesn't. But Gene Stealer can get buffed by Brute Lord, so whatever. Those type of unit tends to go forward. The only other option you have that cannot be picked out by attack is Tyranid Prime, which doesn't do shit. It only buffs warriors, but it also fits in this category of having a character keyword and while remaining less than 10 wounds. The Warrior's Prime is one of that, but it's not as fast. Like Warrior Prime, Tyranid Prime is only 6-inch movement. It cannot keep up with the Gene Stealers and Hormagaunts, which has 8-inch movement. So, and then the other choice is Neurothrope. Now Neurothrope is good unit to take if you are taking them in the backfield. Say you have Kronos Battalion, alright? You have Kronos Battalion. You take Hive Guards, Exocrine, Tyrannofax, maybe Shooty Carnavax. Maybe you can take that, and then you put a Neurothrope in the back line. It's very cheap, so it's great for sitting in the back. But if we're talking about like forward synapse per riding, they're kind of slow. They are a bit slow. It's a 5-inch movement unit that can't really stand the forward melee combat. There's no point to bring them to the front line. Not even for smiting stuff, because smite only hits whatever is closest to the caster itself. So you're probably gonna smite some guardsmen, probably gonna smite some gaunts or fire warriors, which doesn't really help. So Neurothrope is not that great of a choice when it comes to forward synapse providing. Alright, so now we go through the Brute Lord. The only time you want to bring Brute Lord is you want a forward synapse, and you don't have enough forward synapse, then you bring Brute Lord. But if you do have forward synapse covered, let's say you have like 2 Flyrants, alright, you have 2 Flyrants flying around and they are not planning to deep striking anytime soon, then you probably don't need a Brute Lord. Alright, because you already have synapse covered. And it's really hard to kill Hive Tyrants anyway, so you can say it's kind of safe. So Brute Lord, if you want to bring it, just bring 1. 1 is enough, but only if you have at least 2 squads of Gene Stealers. That's the only time you want to bring them. Otherwise, if you have like only 1 squad of Gene Stealers, there's no point bringing a Brute Lord whatsoever, because it's too expensive. It's 162 points, and for like a sort of good melee combat unit, but that can hurt tanks or knights, which is pointless. 162 points for that is too expensive. Maybe if it drops down to like 120 points, I'll try to bring it, but other than that, no. So that's it. That's Brute Lord. Let's move on. Right, next page we have Hive Tyrants. Okay, now I can see some people saying that spamming Hive Tyrant is getting boring and it's a very stupid way and boring way to play, but let me just try to explain why Flyrants are necessary for competitive Tyranid lists. You bring Hive Tyrants with wings, not because they are good DPS stealers. They actually have very mediocre DPS. Even with quad devourers set up, it's actually pretty bad. You can kill some guardsmen here and there. You can pick up some fire warriors and gaunts, whatever. But you're not gonna dish out any sort of significant damage. Like even with smiting, the point bring Hive Tyrants with wings. I'm just gonna call it Flyrant from now on. The reason why you bring Flyrant at all is because you get to fly over the bubble wraps, the shaft unit. You know, you fly over those kind of guardsman unit and you smite the important target, and that's the only reason why you want to bring it. That's it. That's the only reason. You're not bringing it because you can wield quad devourer. I mean, Carnifex can do the same. You don't see people doing that. You use Hive Tyrant because first of all, it's really hard to kill, and second of all, it provides a stable synapse. That's it. So Hive Tyrants, okay, Flyrants with wings. Stupid me flying with wings. I mean, Flyrants, in general cases, are there because they are very hard to kill and they're a distraction unit. Alright, they're a distraction unit. They are not there to do damage. They don't have the capability to do so, and don't equip them with melee weapon either. Like, don't. I mean, the only time you want to equip them with melee weapon is Sponsor's Rending Claw, which you're not bringing in because you want to go in rending shit, because Rending Claw is free, and Sizing Talon costs 14 points. That's the only time you want to bring a melee weapon. So, Hive Tyrants, the reason why it is still competitive even though it deals shit DPS is because it's so hard to kill. I'll show you something here, okay? Death Guard Mortarion, alright, the fucking Primarchs. It has 18 wounds, toughness of 7, 3+ armor save and 4+ invulnerable save, and 5+ feel no pain. And people say, 5+ feel no pain comes from the disgustingly resilient, right? And people say, oh my god, it's so hard to kill. And then, all of a sudden, if you turn the camera back to Tyranids, and you see the same unit over here, Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant has 12 wound, okay, like 6 less than Mortarion, but it also has toughness of 7, it also has 3+ armor save, and 4+ invulnerable save. And guess what? If you cast Catalyst on itself, even though you can only cast one per turn anyway, but whatever. If you cast Catalyst on yourself, you become a sort of like a semi-Mortarion yourself. And this kind of unit, you can bring 3 of them. You can bring 3. Not 1, not 2, but 3. You can bring 3 if you want to. Even though I will personally recommend not to do that, because having that many Hive Tyrants is just bogging down your list. Like, the golden number to bring Hive Tyrant with wings, I keep saying that, god damn it, Flyrants, it's just 1 or 2. 1 to 2 is the perfect number here. 3, it's a bit, no, I won't recommend that. But some people want to bring 3, that is fine. You know, like, most competitive players see 3 Hive Tyrant with wings flying around. They want to, that's fine. But I think 2 is enough. 2 is really enough. The reason why you want to bring 2, okay, is if you give one of them a chameleonic mutation, which is another -1 to hit on top of the semi-Mortarion stat, it's really, really hard to kill. It becomes like a undying synapse provider, sorta. That's also the reason why in the previous unit where we talk about Brute Lord, it's just not as good, because you already have Hive Tyrant, which is really hard to kill. So why would you need another forward synapse creature that can't really do DPS and fly over enemy unit? You can't. You don't want to. All right. You don't want to take that. So just take Hive Tyrant. So that's the use of Hive Tyrant. The Hive Tyrant with its wings, like model-wise speaking, it is really scary. It's a scary big unit that if your opponent has no experience versus Tyranids before, they're going to shoot it down, because even if they read on the internet, they're gonna see all the competitive Tyranid lists bring Hive Tyrants, and they are somehow obligated to attack it because it's big and scary. But as a matter of fact, we all know it doesn't do damage whatsoever. The damage it deals is very minimum. The only reason why they go to the front line is because they can provide Grid Synapse, and the stable one too. They can cast 2 spells per turn, and they can cast Catalyst on themselves and smite the other targets if they want to, but that's pretty much it. That's the reason why you bring Hive Tyrant. And another reason, which I'm going to talk about in the next unit choices, it's because Tyranids, generally speaking, we don't have any alternative. It's not like we love spamming Flyrants, it's just there isn't any other option to pick. Why do I say that? Alright, let's look at the remaining unit to choose from. Alright, we have the Swarm Lord with the Tyranid Prime, Travagon, Neurothropes, and 019. Alright, you have 5 choices to choose from, aside from Brute Lord and Hive Tyrant, which is 7 choices, alright? Seems a lot, right? That's a lot of HQ to choose from. Why am I saying it's really hard to choose, other than picking Hive Tyrant? Here's why. Alright, Brute Lord, I already said it, there's no point to bring a Brute Lord, it's too expensive for what it does, so get it out of the room, right? Travagon and Tyranid Prime, they're just bad. I'm sorry, they're just really bad. Let's start with Travagon, alright? Travagon, it's a unit that's able to spawn Termagants with Flash Forward, and it can also replenish the existing squad. You have to pay reinforcement point to spawn a brand new squad of Termagants, but you don't have to pay points for reinforcing an existing squad. Let's say you have a squad of 30 Termagants, right? And then 10 of them dies, and you have a Travagon next to it, you replenish 10 models Termagon into that existing squad, that's free. That's completely free, you don't have to cost any reinforcement point whatsoever. But if you want to spawn like a brand new Termagon squad, that costs point, which is bad. Like, why would I want to do that? It's like Travagon, it's like 240 something point. It's more expensive than a Ruptured Cannon Tyrannofex, and it spawns 60 points worth of model per turn. Like, I mean, wait, actually, no, 40. It only spawns 40 points worth of model per turn. So it's like, why would I? There's no fucking point to bring them whatsoever. There's no point. And Travagon, as a synapse creature, as a synapse provider, not only a backlash to nearby Termagants when it dies, but it also does not have any sort of invulnerable save whatsoever. So there it is. It's a super expensive big unit with no invulnerable saves, deals backlash damage to nearby Termagants, even though it also provides aura for the Termagants, but whatever. That's why it's bad. It's too expensive for what it does, and it's desperately in need of some sort of invulnerable save. Alright? So let's move on to Tyranid Prime. Why is Tyranid Prime bad? Actually, it's not bad per se, it's just not very competitive. Okay, if this is competitive and this is bad and casual play, Tyranid Prime is probably around like here-ish. It's almost competitive, but not quite. It's still pretty far away. But it's not as bad as Travagon. It still has some redeeming quality. Let's talk about Tyranid Prime. Tyranid Prime is another alternative you can choose that it has less than 10 wounds and also provides synapse, and it can go geared towards melee combat, unlike Neurothrope, which can't. Tyranid Prime in overall, it gives nearby warrior squads a +1 to their ballistic skill and weapon skill. So that's great. You basically make warrior turning from like a regular guardsman, well not guardsman, but like Bograns, into Space Marine shooting profile and 2+ in weapon skill. So that's pretty neat, right? Like warriors are good. Well, good. So the reason why Prime is not that great at the moment is because warriors are bad. If warriors are good, then Tyranid Prime becomes my auto include because it gives +1 to ballistic skill and weapon skill, so there's no point not to take them. And also because the Tyranid Prime is also pretty deadly in melee combat, even in shooting. It's just at the moment for some reason Tyranid Prime cannot carry a Venom Cannon or a Barb Strangler. For some reason, like it just unable to do that. It can carry Devourer and Death Spitter. That's pretty much it. And Fish Spine, yeah, it can carry Fish Spine, but no one picked that choice whatsoever. So Tyranid Prime, all right, it's okay, but if you want to bring it, it's only good if you have a warrior themed list. If you bring a lot of warriors, then yeah, go ahead, bring Tyranid Prime. But if you don't bring any warriors, there is no point to bring Tyranid Prime. Which brings me to my next unit, the Old One Eye. The Old One Eye, okay, it's a huge Carnifex. Well, not huge, it's exactly the same size. But it's a Carnifex that has a character keyword, and it also has less than 10 wounds, which is 9. It's pretty funny. Old One Eye, unlike Tyranid Prime, you can bring an Old One Eye without any Carnifex, and you can still have success with it. Okay, the reason is because Old One Eye with its Crushing Claw that hit on 2+, it's devastating. You cannot pick out the Old One Eye by shooting because its character is less than 10 wounds. And also, it's a strength 14 attack. It's not strength 6 like the regular good old Carnifex. It's strength 7. So hitting strength 14 on 2+ is amazing. And that's not to mention the Berserker Rage, the Berserker Rampage. Each time you roll a hit roll of a 6+, you generate 1 additional attack. So what does that mean? 6+ doesn't sound too fancy. It's like it only happens in 60% of chance. No, it's not 60% chance because it says the hit roll of 6+, which means it's cumulative with other hit modifiers. What does that mean? Old One Eye has a weapon skill of a 3+, right? Correct? Okay, that's cool. It has Alpha Leader, which buffs itself and the nearby Carnifex with +1 to hit. It's like a melee hit aura. Unfortunately, this does not apply to range the shooting attack. That's unfortunate, but melee attack is enough. So a +1 to melee attack, and also the Immortal Battering Ram, which is common among the Carnifex units. If you charge, you get +1 to your hit the turn you charge. So that's another 1 hit. That's +2 hit right here. All right. So the Berserker Rampage requires you to roll a 6+ on hit in order to trigger the addition attacks. Now, if you charge, and also you happen to have an Alpha Leader, which you will, that's +2 to your hit. So in reality, you only need to roll a 4+ in order to trigger this special effect. All right, and let me remind you, this monster has 5 attacks. So 5 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 14. All right, strength 14, and on the 4+, it triggers another attack. And it cannot be picked up by last cannon attacks because it has a character keyword and it has less than 10 wounds. It's fucking amazing, right? You don't even need to bring Carnifex to make Old One Eye useful. That's why it's so... I want to contrast this with Tyranid Prime. Whereas Old One Eye, it buffs Carnifex, which is great, but at the same time it buffs itself, which Tyranid Prime also does. But Old One Eye, in terms of raw combat capability, it's so much better. And it only costs 200 point. 200 point for all that. A tank can opener killing machine that cannot be picked up by shooting, and it's a monster creature. It has 9 wounds, its toughness of 7, it has 3+ armor save, although no invulnerable. It's really hard to kill with just like 1 round or 2 round sniper fire. It's really hard to kill. Really, really hard. Even the Transuranic from the at 80 mag, it's a string of 7 anyway. It will wound this guy on 4+ instead of 3. So it's like, it's really hard to kill 019. So what I'm trying to say here, 019 is really good. You should bring it. Even if you don't have any card effects, you want to bring it. Because it's just that good. It's 200 point. It's even cheaper than Flyrant. Like, think about it. It's cheaper than Flyrant. It's 200 point, and you can have like a string 14, 5 attacks just running towards the enemy line. As long as you have something in front of it, because it's a character, people still can still shoot it if there's nothing in front of it. So, you know, put some Hormagaunts, put some G-Stealers in front of 019 and see it shine. So that's 019 right there. We still have 2 more. Well, technically just 1, because I already talked about Neurothropes. Let me just review it. Like, the Neurothrope overall, put it in the backfield, alright? Just put it in the backfield. It's no biggie. Just let it sit in the back. Maybe surround it with a little bit of a Termagant if you want to, because you don't want to get shot. Maybe do that. Usually their job is just to sit there and protect. Well, not exactly protect, but more like providing synapse to the nearby Hive Guards and other Tyranid's artillery beast. That's pretty much their job. That's pretty much their job description. You can also use them in the group of Zoanthropes, which the Neurothrope will buff Zoanthrope. Don't forget, like, it allows to reroll the psychic test of 1 of nearby Zoanthrope. So if you're running like a Zoanthrope army, maybe like 2, maybe 2. I want to say 3. 3 is too much. Maybe 2 group of 6 Zoanthropes. You can probably bring 2 Neurothrope to accompany them, and then allow them to reroll the ones when they are doing the psychic test. But Zoanthrope has its problems. Okay, we're gonna talk about that like later, but not now. Alright, but Neurothrope overall it's basically a babysitting duty, and also it's because it's the cheapest Tyranid HQ. It's 70 points, and it also has character keyword, and it cannot be shot at. So that's great. It's really easy to hide a Neurothrope in the backfield and provide synapse to a nearby creature. Alright, I said enough about Neurothrope. It's so boring. Alright, here's the last choice we have, is the Swarmlord. Now, the Swarmlord is a 300 point model. Alright, it has similar character stats as Hive Tyrants, but it has like devastating melee attacks, which doesn't mean shit, because it won't be able to survive until melee. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry to say. It has weapon skill of 2+, and its bone sabers are fucking amazing. It's strength 8 weapon, AP 3, and damage of 3, and then you can, each time you roll a wound roll of a 6, you deal additional damage. So that's all great. That's all amazing. The melee attacks are fucking amazing, but it won't be able to survive to walk into melee range. It's not gonna happen. It's simply not gonna happen. Here's why. It's 12 wound character, okay, which means it can pick up by shooting. But then you'll say, hey, you know, Hive Tyrant has the same stat. Like, how come Hive Tyrant is durable but Swarmlord is not? You know, you might ask that question. The problem here, the answer to that question is, Hive Tyrant, given the stat it has, it's only 218 points if you give it Quad Devour, or 204 if you give it just Twin Devour and Monster Surrendering Call. So, in terms of point-wise, alright, Hive Tyrant is more cost efficient, but when it comes to 300 point, you want to expect more than just another Hive Tyrant profile. Alright, we're talking about defensive here. We're not talking about offensive attack power or whatever. I'm talking about just defensive stat, like toughness, wounds, invulnerable save, and armor save. It's pretty much identical to Hive Tyrants, but it's asking for 300 points. So why is that? Why do people still consider Swarmlord? Why do I bring it up if it's just not as cost efficient? It's because its ability, the Hive Commander, alright? In each of your shooting phase, you can pick one friendly Hive Fleet unit within 6 inches of your Swarmlord. That unit can move and advance as if we're in its movement phase instead of shooting. Okay? You're paying 300 points for this ability. This is why you're paying for Swarmlord. Let me explain how it works. This ability is usable during shooting phase. Alright? Which means if you have a group of Gene Stealers, alright, the Gene Stealers In Kraken, obviously, you don't put Gene Stealer anywhere else. You put it in Kraken, most definitely. You put Gene Stealers, all right? Let's say Gene Stealers start from here, all right? They start moving. In movement phase, they move and advance, right? They move and advance. And during advance, you can activate Kraken exclusive stratagem called Opportunistic Advance, which double the advance roll. And that strategy is usable in multiple phases, not just per turn. So you can use it in movement phase, you can use it in shooting phase, or whatever phase that allows you to advance again, then you can use that stratagem. So you use your stratagem during movement phase, so you double the advance roll, which allow them to move about 20-ish inch. That's 20-ish. 20 inch before charging, right? But 20 inch before charging doesn't sound that amazing. However, if you use a Swarm Lord, you can cast a High Commander ability on top of the on the same Gene Stealer squad, which allows them to move and advance again, which you can then activate Opportunistic Advance once more. You can allow them to double the advance roll one more time. So if you do that, it moves 40 inches. 40 inches before charging, all right? You're still allowed to charge. You didn't use Metabolic Overdrive whatsoever. No, you did not. You used the Opportunistic Advance and Hive Commander ability, which does not prevent you from charging. And Gene Stealers, they can advance and charge. So you move 40 inches before charging. Charging is another 12 inches, but let's say it's 6 inches on average, all right? Let's just say it's only 6 inches. That's 46 inches of a threat range. That's why you're paying for a Swarm Lord. You want to get your Gene Stealers into close combat, turn 1. No question asked. 40 inches is more than enough. Be it playing on the short end of the table or long end of the table, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what table edge you're playing in the map setting, doesn't matter. It's just 40 inches is just more than enough. But, okay, let's clear our minds a bit. So, does that mean it is actually cost effective to pay 300 points to have the ability to get the Gene Stealer into combat in turn 1? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Like, do you want to pay 300 points just for that? To get a Gene Stealer into combat? Like, most definitely, it will get into combat. Alright? But is it worth it? I don't know. Because that's basically you're paying for so much point for the ability to move a Gene Stealers. That's pretty much it. As for its offensive and defensive capability, it's definitely not worth it. But now you have to ask yourself, do you want to pay point for that? So yeah, so I think I covered the HQ unit for the Tyranid army list building. So I will continue this series for maybe HQ, troops, elite, fast attack, heavy support, and whatnot. You know, I was trying to make this video short. I don't want to like have a 2-hour video and people will stop watching it. Whatever. So anyways, that's it. That's it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and this is just HQ part, alright? I'm gonna try to make a troop part tomorrow or maybe next week. I don't know, because I'm fucking lazy. I have a lot of model to paint. But anyway, so guys, feel free to ask me anything. I love Tyranids. I love playing Tyranids. I love thinking about strategies that's really creative. I want to play games differently instead of just following like a stable format. But this is my take on the Tyranid headquarter units. So yeah, thank you guys for watching and have fun, and let me know what you guys need later. See you.